Hello. I'm sitting in my little nook, which is behind my desk. You see my a desk anyway, and then I've got this mat on the floor, and I sleep here when I feel tired. More when when I'm feeling sicker or tireder, and less when I've got more energy, like at the moment. And it's also a good place to sometimes have a quiet time. Spend some time with God. I do that more usually, or I most enjoy that when I'm out in nature, God's creation, Bicentennial Park. I tend to go where people aren't, where there are lots of mozzies, and put some mozzie screen or some thick, some mozzie-proof clothing on because it's nice and quiet. Anyway, I'm a bit off the point. Welcome to week 3. I've called this innocuously internal movements towards spiritual maturity. The focus really this week is on dealing with the sinful nature in us and the self. So you'll hear stuff about, or you'll be reading stuff about denying self as the very foundation of spiritual formation. Dallas Willard talks about radical goodness restored to the soul, which he said has radical evil in it. Yes, you'll hear some other terms like the false self, the irrational self, the shadow side of the self. These were all new to me, these terms, until earlier this year. And I came to face with what Ignatius, Saint Ignatius, one of the Ignatiuses, Ignatius of Loyola, called spiritual unfreedoms, areas in which we're not free, areas in which sin is we're particularly vulnerable to sin, areas in which sinful nature seems to be expressed in our lives particularly. And I remember writing. This is my current journal, where I just write things down, and prayers and whatever, and sometimes even pictures and amazingly poems, which isn't like me at all. But anyway, I remember writing in the previous version of this journal, the last one, as I came to the realization that one of the ways in which the sinful nature particularly expresses itself in me is an addiction to activity, kind of the negative side of compulsion to do stuff, which comes out in all, which affects other areas of life, and is not a good thing. Not that activity isn't a good thing, but addiction to it isn't so good. Anyway, so you'll hear about all these things, and you'll be thinking about ways in your particular irrational side or false self, or areas in which sin expresses itself in your life particularly. It's not a very nice topic, but we've got to get a handle on it. You'll be I think you do a diagram as well? I can't remember. Anyway, you certainly do some reflection, and I think this is important because we're being transformed by the renewing of our minds, being transformed from something into something to become more like Jesus. And we're thinking particularly about the from something in this week. And I wish you all the best. God will be with you through this process.